Hello and welcome to TPOE 366. Today on the show is Ronan Kealy, aka Junior Brother, who released his third album, The End, via Pete Doherty's label Strap Originals on September 5th, 2025. This is Junior Brother's third time on the podcast. You can check out TPOE 155 from January 2020 and TPOE 234 from September 2022 if you want to hear him talking about his first and second albums respectively. The latter in particular, I remember coming away from that interview thinking that Junior Brother is a genius, and that is further cemented on The End, which feels like a full band record. Anyone who has seen him play live over the past year might have seen him playing variously with Tony McLaughlin, Dan Walsh of Fixity, and Phil Christie from The Bonk. But actually, bar Uilleann pipes from Lankum's Uilleann Lynch on the final song, Ronan actually plays everything himself on this record. You'll hear him talk about all that in the upcoming 40-ish minute chat. Plus, we'll also talk about what the title of the album means, how the record and the ideas behind it came to Ronan while he was back living down in Kerry, what it was like releasing the album on Pete Doherty's label and what the Libertines mean to him, and just a little bit of info you should know about it before getting into the chat. I'll just read from the press release. The End is a deeply instinctive yet carefully considered response to the chaos of modern life, with Junior Brother weaving the recent years of upheaval into the eerie folklore of fairy forts. These ring-shaped earth mounds scattered across the Irish countryside are known to possess an energy that can bewilder, curse, or even lead the unwary astray. Stepping into one is to risk losing yourself both physically and spiritually. To Junior Brother, this ancient folklore mirrors the disorienting reality of today's world. He says the sound of the album is supposed to take the organic instruments of Irish traditional music and lift them somewhere else, like the otherworldly Irish music sometimes heard from fairy forts at twilight on country roads, impossible to recreate upon hearing. Much of the album's inspiration was drawn from UCD's folklore collection on ducas.ie. He says, I delved into the manuscripts, endless eyewitness accounts of fairy forts being stepped into and the land altering, the familiar mutating, farmers, teachers, the sober, the smart, all losing their way home one way or the other. Junior Brother has some tour dates coming up to coincide with the release of The End. He's got UK and Europe dates as well, but I'll just read the Irish ones. On September 12th, he plays the PAV as part of Sounds from a Safe Harbour festival, that's in Cork. He's got 2 nights at the Grand Social in Dublin on September 13th and 14th, and he plays Fantastival Festival in Drogheda on September 21st. On October 10th, he's in Lasta in Tralee for the Sheemsa Tira Festival. On November 9th, he's in the Bars in Clonakilty for Samhain Festival. The 14th of November, Roisin Dove in Galway. The 15th of November, Dolan's Warehouse in Limerick. He's in Sandino's in Derry on November 21st. Open House Festival in Bangor on November 22nd. And he's in the Spirit Store in Dundalk on November 23rd. You can buy The End on juniorbrother.com. We were just talking about Dublin and Cork and moving and life in general and getting lucky with living situations. You said that you've been in Dublin for 10 years, Ronan, almost. Do you feel like as a musician, you do have to be in Dublin? I feel like it's kind of even becoming more important for new acts to be in Dublin, you know, just for opportunities.
Yeah, I think so. Although at the same time, with the internet, you kind of don't really need to be in a certain place as much anymore, I don't think. However, I think it's still really important to be in a place where you can meet like-minded people, because that creates an exciting kind of loop of just interesting stuff. People kind of encouraging other people to plow on. And I think that's true maybe in all kind of cities, but I found that to be extremely true in Dublin when I moved here. Yeah, nearly 10 years ago. But I came up kind of slightly before that. I was up and down for doing a college course, the Rock School in Ballyfermot. So I was doing that for a little bit, and then I just kind of decided to just move up, get a job, and really go at it. Um, but for me at the time, I wanted to find like-minded people, but also I just wanted to get better. And Dublin seemed to be where the gigs were, so I just wanted to go somewhere where there was loads of places I could play my own material and just get better at singing and playing the guitar and performing. You know,
You make it work when you're younger, don't you? Like
yeah,
it's so depressing to see some of the living situations now. I can't imagine what it's like
yeah,
for, like people like you 10 years ago, musicians who are trying to make it. And
yeah.
Jeannie Mac, I'd say it's pretty grim, like some of the stuff they have to live through.
Yeah, well, it was what year would it have been? The year when I remember like being down in Kerry, where I'm from, just looking at through all the places, the options for rental places in Dublin, and places were like 350, 400 euro a month kind of thing. And just I think back to that a lot, and just thinking if I was that age now and going like I'm going to move to Dublin now and get serious about music, it'd be like I don't know if I'd be able to make it work as much as I like. It just seemed a bit easier back then. Um, Now I also like had no connections really in Dublin, really, so I didn't know people who could help me out and stuff. So I ended up living like out by the M50, like in the middle of kind of nowhere. Uh, Paying though rent that was quite cheap, so I was able to make it work. But I think I felt like I moved to Dublin, and then like as soon as I moved to Dublin, just things started kind of spinning out of control, and just with the cost of living and just the lack of limits on what rental properties can do. It just started getting really bad then. And if I'd even left it another year, I think I probably just wouldn't have moved to Dublin. Like it would have been just too. It was scary enough as it was to make a leap like that, but I think it would have been too daunting. Maybe even a year after I actually did it. And now I kind of know people here, and the last couple of years when I've moved a few times, it's true people I know, So you kind of need to know people. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess. Hopefully, it gets better at some stage in the near
Yeah, I feel
future.
like we've been saying that for a couple of years, so haven't we? Just like,
Yeah,
surely it can't get any worse. And I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know.
sure.
Did you
Yeah.
say that it was the Ballyfermot Music School that you moved up for? I was talking to Varo, who I know you're on their second album earlier in the year in a collaboration. I was going to ask you about, but was it wasn't the trad course? They did a trad course, I think, in Ballyfermot. You didn't do that, no.
No, I did the I think it's the performance course. I did that. Um, and no, I didn't do the trad one. I think I on the day I auditioned for the rock school, I tried to audition for the trad course as well, but it fell through somehow. But anyway, I got into the rock school, and yeah, I was just under 2 years there actually. Yeah.
What kind of stuff did you learn? Do you feel like it was a good like course to do just for you starting out and like moving to Dublin as well? I guess. I guess if nothing else, you probably made some connections, some
Yeah,
pals.
yeah, like the great thing about the place was that they just, if they saw you kind of knew what you wanted to do, they just kind of leave you alone. Um, and they were they would really stress the importance of writing, of songwriting. So I think that's why a lot of really good songwriters have come out of there, because they it's an important part of the place. Even if you go in to play drums, you still have to attend the songwriting classes, and you have to write a song by the end of the year and things like that. So, and also like if somebody even was in the corridor outside a classroom playing a cover on their guitar, one of the teachers would run up the corridor and yell at them to stop. So it was they were very strict about doing your own stuff and just creating your own material. So I thought that was brilliant. And yeah, they were just really encouraging. I had kind of initially used it as just an excuse to my parents to move to Dublin. Um, so it was partly that, and partly, because I'd heard it was a great way of kind of getting started in music. So moved up and did that, and it ended up just being I just got very encouraged, and just the very fact that I'd made the move gave me, I think, a lot of fire that I was willing to kind of put into everything. So I embraced all the things in the rock school, and I was very hungry to get going in general.
Did you have the idea for what Junior Brother would become? Like, say, this album, did you kind of have it in your head back then when you were doing that this was what you wanted to do? Write these original tunes that maybe touch a little bit on traditional music, but add this whole, like, strange world in as well?
Yeah, I very much like I wouldn't have made that leap from kind of Kerry to Dublin if I didn't have an idea what I wanted to do. I was living in Cork actually for I was briefly in UCC, and I they would have been in my first year in UCC, I think. I entered a battle of the bands, and I'd come across the name Junior Brother in a play I was studying for in English. That's where I got the name. So I was like, geez, I'd love to actually be called that, because seeing my own name on posters and things like that really freaked me out. I thought it was really weird, and I didn't feel comfortable with it. And so I was like, yeah, I'd love another name. Saw that, and then I was like, right, put myself down for a battle of the bands then in UCC, and it was like, "What's your name?" You have to write your name, and I was like, uh, I didn't know whether to put my own name or Junior Brother down, so I just decided I'd put down my own name and Junior Brother together. So Ronan Kealy, which is my own name, Junior Brother, and then I was like, so it's up to whoever's putting this together, whoever I'm giving this to, I'm leaving it up to them as to whether I'll be called by my own name or this new name, or both. Genuinely, whoever that person is, uh, it was their decision that led to what I am called now. So they decided to just go with Junior Brother. So I was like, right, that's my name now. Um, so whoever that was, it's their fault that this is my name.
What do you remember about the rest of that Battle of the Bands? Can you remember, like, were you kind of terrible? Were you good when you were playing it? What were the other bands like? I'm guessing that it was just typical Battle of the Bands. Like back when I was in college, it would have been all like, rock bands playing the likes of Metallica covers, maybe.
Yeah, no, it was good. There was some good bands. I've always thought Cork was a great place for music. So there's always been great stuff happening. No, there was really good bands there. I actually got through to the final as well, which means couldn't have been that bad really. But I remember my tambourine, which I hadn't really figured out yet how to do the tambourine live, and so I just had it taped onto the stage. And during the first song, all the tape just ripped off, and so I just remember chasing the tambourine around the stage with my foot for the whole gig. So I knew I had to sort that out, which I did, but it took a few years to properly uh, come up with a system to use the tambourine live and not be having to chase it around the stage. So yeah, that's my main memory of it. And yeah, that was the first time I played as Junior Brother. And I had very strong ideas of what I wanted to do with the project from the get go. Really, when I was about uh, from when I was about 16 or 17, um, before I had the Junior Brother name, I knew the sound I wanted, and I really wanted to just dive into it 100% as soon as I got anywhere near the sound. So kind of since then, I've been exploring ideas that I've had since the very start.
Your tambourine playing is one of the most like interesting things about watching you play live, because it is almost like a whole other person is there on stage with you if you're playing, say, solo, which I presume that I've seen you do over the years. So you had that idea like 10 years ago, this tambourine taped to the ground. I don't know, is that like a
a usual thing in trad music? Would a lot of like guitar players or singers or something have the tambourine with them on the floor, kind of almost as a metronome? I guess is it? Is that kind of how you see it as well, or do you see it as its own instrument, as its own like percussive thing?
I've always seen it as nearly like a seventh string on the guitar. It was a way of me, when I was getting into finger picking on the guitar, it was a way of me kind of exploring newer finger picking patterns. And that's why I started using different time signatures as well. Just because I got to a point where I was getting a bit bored with with the finger style patterns I was kind of learning or exploring. When I started getting into different time signatures to get the different finger style or finger picking patterns going, I incorporated the tambourine then to get to kind of earth it. Um, I kind of felt the finger picking style would float off, and then the tambourine would bring it back down to earth. I was also getting very into uh, like early music, like music from the Renaissance and medieval music, particularly a guy called David Munro and the Early Music Consort of London. They were from the 70s, and I bought a compilation album when I was in Manchester briefly when I was about 17. I bought a record of David Munro, and it just blew my mind. And in a lot of that early music, there's a lot of tambourine on it, and that fully influenced how I started using the tambourine then, because I was really interested in exploring a sort of exploring a kind of an archaic vernacular in my lyrics, but also an archaic sort of sound in my music, to maybe try and give a bit of a timeless quality, or a quality to it where it maybe could come from a long time ago. So all that kind of fed into my decision to use the tambourine. But I suppose it all really started like everything that I have done in music has started, which is just being kind of stranded in my house in Kilcummin and Kerry, with kind of nobody in the gaff, me really bored, and just finding things around the house. So we just had a crappy little tambourine, skin tambourine, and I just started using that with my foot, just as you say, to kind of, I don't know, to add something else. And then as I got into all different sorts of things like time signatures and the early music, and even like prog rock bands and things like that, and but folk too, the tambourine really fit into all those aspects and ticked all those boxes for me. So I just continued exploring it with the guitar. And then a few years later, I started attempting to do it live and started recording with it. And it became a crucial part of the sound for me then.
Great. I guess maybe we should talk about the new album. I was going to ask you about the creative process. Has it changed much for you? This idea of just like almost being bored in a room and just like playing the guitar and seeing what ideas come out. But the idea behind this album is a little more maybe focused. You actually did research in UCC for this album, did you?
It was all online, and it was the folklore collection in UCD actually.
Oh,
Uh,
UCD. Oh, sorry. Maybe I just
yeah,
read everything as like Cork,
yeah,
you know? Oh, it's UCC.
that's very Cork, isn't it?
It is, yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, UCC, Cork
Yeah,
influences Junior
yeah,
Brothers' new sound.
yeah.
Oh, whoops. My apologies to UCD. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, they have an incredible collection there of manuscripts and of recordings and field recordings, interviews and stuff. And it was basically over lockdown, really. I just got really into all that stuff. Basically started like my music. I've always banged on about the fact that like the landscape of where I'm from is a huge influence on my music, kind of in every aspect. Not only the lyrics, but more so the music and just the atmospheres of the landscape I'm from. Just trying to get them across through the music has always been like a priority, even subconsciously. That kind of really started as soon as I left home. So sort of through like a homesickness kind of a type of thing. But it was also like a romantic idea of where I was from, and drawing from that for imagery and sounds and atmospheres. But then when COVID hit, I had to actually move back home and actually be confronted with what I had been idealizing and romanticizing for the previous few years in my music. And when I was confronted with it, then I just couldn't write anything. I couldn't create, couldn't make a song. And then things eased and I moved back up to Dublin, and I wrote loads as soon as I came back up to Dublin. So I was like, right, this is an imagined version of this landscape that I am actually kind of in love with. So then I moved back again when there was another lockdown, and then I started. This
You
was a
moved back
longer
to
one.
Kerry, is it?
Back to Kerry, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then I started just doing these big long walks and felt properly in love then with the surrounding areas in a way that I didn't before, in a way that I was actually noticing what was in the landscape. So I just started seeing ring forts all over the place. And then I got really into online resources about what's around you, things that have been marked as significant by the county council or the heritage council or whoever it might be. And I got really interested then in like local mythology and like folk tales and things like that. Then that led me into the UCD collection, where you could actually hear recordings from like even like 90 or 100 years ago or so, and less of people actually recounting these stories of things that would happen to them, like walking home from their local pub or their friend's house, kind of like near twilight or whatever. And a lot of the stories from all over the country, they all like kind of linked up with each other. So they're all drawing from these same things. And I just started getting fascinated with all that. And it just so happened to be while I'd gotten this new kind of second wind of creativity. So with all that, I also wanted to kind of uh, create a reflection of kind of how I felt the world was at the time and where it maybe was going, and still kind of where it feels like it's going in some ways, which is just hard to kind of tell what's happening day by day, and you kind of feel a little bit lost in the mix of everything. And so with that, and with all the stuff coming through the phone, all these news headlines, things changing every day, just madness from the very top levels of society. I was also reading these stories of people going mad or getting lost in these rural landscapes, in these fairy forts, being led astray, things like that. So I just joined the two up, and I thought there was links between the two. So I decided to it just became kind of one of the main themes then of this new record, joining those two things up. This kind of old, kind of hard to define thing that exists despite itself, and the nature of the world today as you might see it through your phone or from a distance.
Loads to unpack there, big ideas that you're getting at. We'll try and take it one by one. Maybe like the fairy forts and that kind of old Irish folklore. Did you have that growing up, Aziz? Did you have people around you who were like telling you stuff like that, like storytellers or anything like that around?
Well, yeah, my grandmother was an incredible storyteller. She was from Offaly, this little village called Ballycumber, and she'd always, from when I was a very, very young child, she'd tell me and like my brother and my cousins these crazy stories, and never once would she say that it was a story. These things actually happened to her, you know. Which were, and it would all the stories would be located in places that she could bring you to and point out to you. So it was just so real and uh, like terrifying stories. My uncles as well, same thing. They'd tell me things that happened to them that sounded like stories, but no, they wouldn't flinch. These things actually happened to them. There was always this blurring between this supernatural almost elements with actual real life, and all based in this kind of rural kind of world where, like, I don't know, maybe modernity hadn't creeped in that much yet. There wasn't too many distractions to kind of to obscure yourself from seeing these other things that are maybe behind, you know, electricity or just modern distractions. So yeah, I would have grown up with that in that sense. And you just end up just believing all this stuff exists, and I'd kind of forgotten about that until I kind of got back into the stuff I was telling you about there, getting into folk stories or just actual accounts that people would have of these supernatural things that might have happened to them. And that when I listened to these recordings from the UCD collection, for example, that's what struck me, and it reminded me of my grandmother and how she used to tell me these things completely straight-faced, and that it actually absolutely happened, you know. You would have to take it at face value then that these things actually did happen. And especially, as I said, as all these accounts linked up, you know, could be somebody in the 20s from Donegal, an old man talking about seeing a huge blue mountain in the middle of a field and not being able to find his way home. You'd hear a very similar story in Clare, or, you know, incredibly rural areas that wouldn't have had connections with each other. So all these things and everything, just like there is something to this maybe. And basically, I think it all comes down to just like a respect for your environment. And that's what I kind of concluded, is that these are like, they're not just like fantastical tales to entertain. They're actually like almost warnings to just have this even quiet respect for your surroundings, and just to pay attention to what's around you, even if, you know, in the modern world it seems like, you know, out in the sticks there mightn't be much out there. There's actually an endless amount of things that you should be aware of and that you should respect. And I think all these stories and ways of looking at your surroundings just really reflect that.
I'm imagining that it's kind of almost unquantifiable what your uncles and your grandmother, how they influenced you. But I'm guessing what it does is it kind of lets your imagination run wild. You're creating these whole worlds back when you're a kid, or you're hearing about these whole worlds, real, imagined, mythical, and maybe it sticks with you, and maybe you kind of run with it. Is it?
Yeah, they more just they more just scared the crap out of me, to be honest. As a child.
How old are you when you're being told this? Is it like from the day you're born, probably?
From very young, like very young child, yeah. And yeah, I was told but all the way up to till my granny died there about 10 years ago. She was, when I was like a teenager, she'd mentioned these things as if they actually happened as well. It was always like that, and just really, really engagingly told as well. Yeah, for sure. Like there's a lot of, it definitely fires up the imagination as well. And, uh, you know, it couldn't have not influenced me really, being like exposed to that kind of even way of telling a story from that early on. It all made an imprint, all right. Yeah.
What's your relationship with Kerry like now? Are you kind of happy in Dublin at the moment? Could you ever see yourself moving back there permanently down to Kerry?
Yeah, you never know. Like, I mean, I love it down home. I really, really do. But I suppose creatively, I more found my place in Dublin. So because of that, I mean, I love Dublin as well. So I love both. You know, I'm just living in one of them. But Dublin has been very good to me. I've got like, there's a great scene up here as well. Ever since I moved up, there's been just a great music scene, art scene. So it's great to be in the middle of all that. And I can always go home then as well. So,
A, a very
suits me.
diplomatic answer, which I think is probably necessary. My question was very leading, so if any of your family are listening, they'll be like, "That was a good answer."
I don't make any enemies here. Yeah.
The sound of the new album, The End, is so interesting as well. You say in the press release that the sound of the album is supposed to take the organic instruments of Irish traditional music and lift them somewhere else. I'm so interested in like your relationship with traditional music. We talked at the start, I mentioned Varro and your cover that you did for their album earlier this year. You did a song called Skibbereen on their second album, The World That I Knew. I think it's the first time that I've heard you singing a proper traditional song. I talked to them on the podcast earlier this year, and they were saying that they've heard you in sessions over the year, that it was no trouble to you. I think I've talked to you in the past about, like, why don't you make kind of traditional music? Maybe first of all, tell me about that song, Skibbereen. What do you remember about recording with Varro and doing that song? Is that just one that you have in your repertoire anyway?
Yeah, I've been singing that for a few years now. I actually heard my uncle sang it to me at a wedding years ago, and it was very late in the night, and we were well oiled, and he just started singing the song, and I was like, "What the hell was that?" And he told me the name of it, and then I looked it up, and the only version then I could find was the Dubliners version with Ronnie Drew singing it, and no offense to Ronnie Drew at all, but I really didn't like that version at all. I kind of knew what I felt from the song and what I wanted to depict uh, in the imagery and just the emotions of it. So I just said I'd give it a crack. I kind of saw something else in the song that I wasn't hearing in that version. So that led me to making my own version. And yeah, it would be in my kind of repertoire, all right. But I never really do like traditional ballads in my own work. I can just never find the space for them. But I do play them, like I play trad as well, bits and pieces. And I'm more drawn to bringing kind of tunes into my stuff rather than songs. You know, I do sessions a lot. I do Irish trad sessions a lot, and I do have a repertoire for them. Maybe someday I'll bring that side of things more into my own work, but I haven't found space for it yet. That's what I loved about doing the Varro thing, was that it allowed me to bring that part of my musical kind of world in the junior brother world, and it was a good chance for me to record that song, which I've been singing, doing my own version of for a few years.
Great. And this album, The End, I mean, I saw you playing in Button Factory earlier in the year, and it was a full band. You had Tony McLaughlin, longtime collaborator at this stage with you. You had Dan Walsh on drums, and you had Phil Christie from The Bonk on keyboards as well. Are they all on the album too? Is this like a full band record?
It's all me on the album, actually.
Oh,
I play all
really?
the instruments. Yeah.
Oh,
Um, except on the very last song, there's uilleann pipes that are played by Lynch from Lankum. So
wow.
he's the only other he's the only other musician on the whole album. So yeah, it's all me, 100% Junior. Well, 99%, 1% Lynch. Yeah, because that's how it was written. That's how it was written. It was written like it was written while it was being demoed and arranged at the same time. When I was down in Kerry, locked down, quarantined. So I couldn't bring anyone else in. So then when I actually went into the studio to record it, I just thought I'd do it the same way because that's how the songs were written and that's how it should feel. Um, so I recorded it that way too then. So it's all me, yeah, but I kind of I kind of like doing that. I like for the studio stuff to kind of um, arrange stuff and then maybe play the stuff myself and then bring it into the live world to other musicians who can maybe give it a different slant. And then the songs take on a new life instead of just, replicating exactly what's on record. I feel if I kind of do a lot of it myself and then bring it to other musicians, the live thing then can expand from what was done on the album.
What was it like asking Ian to do the uilleann pipes? Would he be a big player of them? Would you know him before? Have you played with music with him or anything like that?
Yeah, we've done bits and pieces, all right. He's played uilleann pipes for ages, and I love how he plays them. He can get such weird noises out of them, which he demonstrated to me that day in the studio. And I think he should actually do a whole album just the weird noises he can make out of the uilleann pipes. which is sort of almost flatulent, but in a really great way. Yeah, I mean, we've collaborated before. I did a thing for him again over lockdown. He had this series called Songs from the Crack Pipe. I think it was called Crack CRAIC. And it was just him when he was locked down as well. There was like this huge pipe like concrete pipe in a building site near where he was living. And he used to just go in there, record himself singing. And then he just asked me to sing a song with him. Uh, in this case, it wasn't in a big concrete pipe. It was in a Martello tower that he was living in at the time, out in Doherty. So I went in there and we sang a song called Four Green Fields, and which is another song that I'd sing, written by Tommy Makem from the Clancy Brothers. And then I did a thing in the National Concert Hall where I had him as a guest. We did a couple of songs together there. So we'd done some stuff together before. And then I just had the idea of having uilleann pipes for the last song. I needed to get to, because the last song is like, it's sort of like, or what would you say? It's sort of like, it's almost funereal, if that's a word. It's like, it's sort of supposed to be sort of like a dirge for like the kind of destruction of everything that I was romanticizing in the rest of the album. Because it's about a new road that at the end of writing the album and falling in love with the landscape, we got a letter in the post that said a motorway was going to be planned to go through the house. So that was quite crazy. And then I was wondering how to end the album, and that was the way to end it, as a sort of um, a kind of a sad tribute, or like a eulogy for the landscape I'd fallen in love with, as this new road is about to kind of plow through it. So the song itself, which is called New Road, is all based on the organ. And then for the last part, because the organ, it's less of a kind of a organic instrument, because depicting the new road, this new modern thing flowing through all this nature. I wanted something that by the end of it encapsulates, maybe more than any other instrument, the sound of like Ireland, or the sound of Ireland's like nature, just this epic organic Irish instrument. And the uilleann pipes was perfect. So I asked Ian, and he was up for it. So he came in and played it, and it really it really hit the mark. It was exactly what I wanted. Hopefully, it sounds like the actual landscape that I'd fallen in love with. Having one last kind of epic cry before dying.
Amazing, yeah. Um, wait for this segue, Ronan. You talk about crack pipe. You're releasing the album on Pete Doherty's label Strap Originals. He's okay with that, He's talked about it loads in the past. It's not something that you can really separate from Pete. I think it's okay. He's all good now. It must be really nice, like meeting him, hanging out with him. Were you a big Libertines fan back in the day? And what does he offer for like helping with the record?
Um, yeah, look, to be honest, I think that the Libertines and stuff kind of passed me by at the time.
You were a little too young.
Maybe, yeah, I was definitely a little too young. Yeah, it's amazing how quickly they kind of were. They were only around for such a brief period. The Libertines, it's quite, which I didn't realize. But so yeah, it kind of just somehow kind of passed me by. What I'd heard, I'd always loved. Like thought he was obviously an incredibly verbose lyricist, and he had some amazingly powerful songs as well. But it was just, I think it was through Lisa O'Neill. She was doing stuff with Peter Doherty, and just told him to listen to my stuff. And then he did, and then reached out to my manager, and then him and the head of the label came to a gig, and then signed me to their label. So very exciting, and it's a great label. Like it's really kind of on the up, and it's got a great roster on it. So I'm delighted to be on their label. Yeah, I think it's a good fit.
Amazing to have the likes of Lisa singing your praises. I guess you go back with her. You've probably done her sessions in Stony Batter and stuff like that, did you?
Lisa O'Neill, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like yeah, we'll go back far enough, all right. Mainly through kind of the sessions kind of thing as well, but more so just through gigging, kind of. Like Ireland's a small place. gets even smaller if you're playing anything adjacent to folk music. So you'd end up meeting everyone. So through that, but she was always a big sort of inspiration. Just as I was finding my voice, she was starting to kind of become known. And I was like, there's somebody doing their own thing in a way that also might be quite divisive, and it's okay. It can still, you can still find an audience doing that. So that was a huge thing for me. So yeah, and then I've got to know her, and she's a good friend now, and yeah, delighted to know her, and yeah, she really set that all up, yeah, as well.
Great. I won't keep you too much longer. We might just talk about one or two songs before we wrap up. I don't know, is Take Guilt the first track that you put out from the album, but it's just an unbelievable tune. Like, it came out last year in 2024, a masterpiece. Tell me about making this song, because it's very much like widescreen, the ideas that you're talking about. It's what you mentioned earlier in our chat. You're taking like the old sounds and the old stories, and you're bringing them very much to the modern world, looking at these atrocities that you're scrolling through on your phone, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, um, yeah, Take Guilt was the first. Yeah, it was the first single released. It was released on its own, which I thought it kind of suited coming out just on its own, just as a standalone piece before the album was announced or anything like that. Because I saw it as something that should stand on its own for a while anyway, before it's in the context of the album. And yeah, that song was kind of like the first song of its kind, I suppose, that I'd written. It was written very much as a response to another song by Minor Threat, the 80s hardcore punk band. They had a song called Guilty of Being White that really kind of turned my stomach. And then Ian MacKaye, who's a bit of a hero of mine, uh, I like heard an interview with him many years later, recently enough, and he still kind of stood by what he said in the song. So I just felt very strongly about that, and just the phrase "take guilt" just came into my head. So I had that for a while, and then I just put it into this song, and it was all written, I think, in one draft, which is very, very unusual for me. It all just kind of spilled out of me, and it was done by the time I got to the end. So yeah, it's probably the most difficult song I have to play live for a few reasons. Takes a lot out of me, but it's also like just everything about it. The guitar playing on it's very hard to play. How small it gets and how big it gets, the tempo of it, the pacing of it, and how I sing it as well. So it's a really difficult song to sing, but I make sure to kind of do it as much as I can, because it feels like it's maybe uh, the ideas in it should be heard by people, I think, maybe.
It's a similar idea you're exploring on the fourth and latest single, A Lot of Love. You say it's a response to life's tight spots when fighting hate with love gets you into a dark corner. Is that coming from the same place as Take Guilt?
I think they're kind of coming from a similar space, but they're very, very different as well. Um, like a lot of love is more just a kind of a short, sharp, kind of cathartic leap for um, this for living life with enthusiasm, and this kind of passionate love for everything, which is a great way to live. But it's just kind of in that song a reminder as well to kind of just keep an eye out for um, obstacles to that way of living, and that the opposite of living life with love can always be around the corner. So just to be aware of that, and also to kind of reflect the friction between those two things. Um, so hopefully the musical side of the song kind of reflects that as well.
Tell me about the visual side of things, because you've always put out great videos, and all of the videos you've put out for the singles for the end have been absolutely brilliant. I think it's Elias Grace who you've worked with for all of them. And also, do you enjoy the acting side of things? Because you're very front and center in all of them as well.
Yeah, like Elias Grace there, we've done a lot of videos together now at this stage. I just love working with him. He's a great collaborator. He's very up for um, just getting my thoughts on things, and because I'd be very involved in all the visual aspects, kind of what I do more or less. Um, And I've kind of worked with people in the past who are less enthusiastic about collaborating, be a bit more like this is kind of my job, and just leave me at it. But Elias is very, very open to bringing me in, even to the point where Small Violence, I co-directed that with him, and he was totally fine with me doing that. Which and just to have that trust in somebody who's so incredibly talented at what they do is fantastic. And we've really developed this great dynamic between the two of us now, to where we don't even really need to tell each other kind of what we want. We're just on the same page immediately. So we've a great working relationship. I just think he's technically and creatively brilliant, but he's also able to take my kind of insane ideas and like make them a bit more realistic and rein me in a little bit. And so I'd be kind of just chasing an idea, and then he'd be the practical side of things. He would say, "Okay, this idea is great. This idea is great. Let's get rid of you jumping out of an airplane without a parachute. I don't think we have the budget for that, but everything else is really good. Let's do this and that." And then like getting the budget together and things like that. So we balance everything out very nicely. It's a working relationship that I'd really value. Like, yeah, he's great.
Amazing. Well, look, brilliant songs, brilliant visuals, brilliant ideas behind it all. How are you feeling about the album as a whole? It's coming out in about just over 2 weeks, I think, as we're talking. It might be out when people are listening to this already. Happy, proud, what you've put out in the end?
I couldn't be prouder of it, to be
Great.
honest. I like I was like it was all written in one burst a while ago, about 5 years ago now at this stage, nearly, and it's really stood the test of that time. Um, the songs have like I've kind of developed certain parts of the song since, but mainly like 90% of it is as it was written from start to finish, like 4.5, 5 years ago. So for the fact that the songs are still relevant, it's a little bit scary that there's still kind of parts of it are still relevant, but it's also great too that it's still, to me, is all completely fresh, and definitely, in my opinion, the best thing I've done. So couldn't be prouder of the album, and I'm delighted with how everything has lined up for it too. And I can't believe it's out in 2 weeks. It's crazy and very exciting, and I can't wait until people hear it.
Great. Congrats on the album, Ronan, and thanks a lot for the chats today. Best luck with everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Nice one.